Good morning, my dear friends. Today is the 10th of Nissan, also April 10th, and we're approaching a very special holiday, the holiday of Passover. How did the holiday begin? It began with a question that was asked by a curious person, by Moses, when he saw the bush that was burning but not consumed. Like Einstein said, curiosity is more important than knowledge. Imagination is really what helps us go beyond the boundaries of the present, allows us to imagine a future, a better future. And one of the things that I had the honor to participate in is a conference meeting in Ohio where we all were trying to imagine a better future for us, for our children, for the world. And I would like to share with you what future I imagined. So here is the dateline. We are imagining a dateline of 2075. Now the question is that I asked my co-dreamers, why 50 years from now? They're like, wow, that's really a lofty goal. And I said, well, whose other dream that he said would happen? He said, well, in 25 years, definitely in 50 years, this will become a reality, and people laughed him off. Well, it was Theodor Herzl who said in the first Zionist Congress that took place in Basel in 1897 that in 50 years, the Jews will indeed have their own country. And indeed, in 1947, the United Nations, even the Russians and the Americans together supported the creation of a homeland to the Jewish people. All nations have a homeland, and the Jews had their homeland stolen, occupied by a variety of countries, until it was finally recognized for subjective reasons. Of course, the Russians thought, Stalin thought that it would be a socialist home, and it would take away from the British mandate power. The Americans, on the other hand, well, it was President Truman, who was a true man, and he believed in the Bible and believed in the fact that, like any other nation, Jews should have their homeland. Jews that returned to Poland in 1946 after the Holocaust, 42 of them were murdered just because they came back and wanted to live back in what they thought was their home, because they didn't have yet a home. The British did not allow, even after the Holocaust, for Jews to return. There were the white papers and there was quotas on who can return, and they were living in displaced person camps. So again, this is the background to the imagination, to the world that we're trying to create, that comes on the heels of the Passover. And you know that I was in Ohio if you follow my posts. And this is the timeline that they gave us, and try to fill it out. So here we go, 2075. History classes try to explain how hate used to be a problem in the past and is now extinct, freeing time for innovation and productive work. That's a world that I would love us to get to. 2050, we're going back in time. Jews, Muslims, Christians, and all diverse groups reject hate and lead by personal example, supporting an independent free Israel, and visits to Israel increase. That's 2050. 2040, the position for professorship in Middle Eastern studies and pro-Zionist is increasing in need and numbers, with increased recruits from all universities. 2030, a movie about the Maccabees, connecting Jews and the Israel values. And new books appear about pro-Israel and how the laws of the Bible were actually instrumental in helping forge a stronger, united people, and therefore should be an example, just like the founding fathers use it as an example, to the creation of this amazing republic that is based on democratic values here in the United States. So again, this is a republic and not exactly the same thing as the democracy. Democracy in Athens is what caused Socrates to be killed just because he was expressing free speech. This is a republic. People choose the representatives who then help to translate what exactly they want and do that through a democracy. So it's like you have a jury, but at the end of the end of it, it's the judge in the court that helps translate it. And 2028, that's 3 years from now, school boards passes legislation against anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. So this is the timeline. Now let me tell you where we are on this sheet that I had to fill out as well. The bottom line, basically where we are, the world that we're trying to achieve. And these are statements. We have to do quotes and we have to do, like Facebook and stuff like that. Big headlines, Twitter tweets, hashtags, Instagram pictures. And here, the bottom line. We have never seen so many applicants under the age of 18 receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. And to think it all began by investing our money in debunking the oldest hate in history. Anti-Semitism. The interview. This interview was taken by the principal of one of the high schools. The name of the principal was Muhammad Jesus Ashkenazi. And that's what he's saying. In my 30 years of teaching, I have never seen so much camaraderie and love in the school. Bullying is gone. Students excel in classes and collaborate with positive, supportive atmosphere. And to think it all began as a lone yellow star, a lesson from a broken jug in a temple, a candle that in its last flickering light lit the hearts and imagination of our children and our world. All I can say is seeing this makes me believe anything is possible. And then headlines. Breaking the cycle. How education transformed a divided world. Wouldn't that be nice? And then another headline, the domino effect, fostering world love by eradicating anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. Are we at the time of the Messiah? This is headlines from newspapers. And then tweets, progressive wisdom is a groundbreaking move. The education department across the US and Europe adopt a curriculum that explicitly addresses the roots of anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. Hashtags equality, inclusion, Jews' future, anti-Semitism, love, peace, truth, justice, tolerance, and education. Quotes, world wars have stopped. The cure for cancer is here. A 16-year-old boy finds the way to recycle plastic. A group of 17-year-olds, Muslim, Jews, and Christians, find a safe replacement for plastic. Another quote, now I believe anything is possible. And that's the quote I'd like to end with, my friends. We often think about what is more powerful. Sometimes we're in a rage. We feel very powerful. We can do a lot of stuff. We can destroy a lot of things. But then again, when we're in love, we have also a huge amount of power, but we get so much more from love than from hate. There's a beautiful Chinese story about the sun and the wind trying to sing which one is stronger. And the wind blew first very, very strong, and the jacket fell off this guy who was walking up the mountain. And the question was, who will be able to undress him? And then he blew more, and another layer flew off him. And then he blew more, but he was holding so tightly to the shirt, and he fell down, but still held to the shirt. He couldn't take him off. And then he gave up. And then the sun came. And the sun with its warmth was making him take off all his clothes practically. He stayed with his underwear. But even his shirt off. And that's comes to the point that sometimes we all get to the level where we get angry. We get mad. We want to explode. We want to kick back, just like the Jews want to do to the Hamas, to the Palestinians after the horrific acts of October 7th, just like the Ukrainians want to do to the Russians after what they have committed, the heinous acts in Ukraine. But if we can do that and still remain human and realize that the other side has a chance to also, with proper education, understand that at the end of the world, we just want the same thing. Jews want to have their own country. Ukrainians want to have their own country. And if everyone will respect one another and understand that we each, as a human, deserve to have our land, we're actually all the same. What differentiates Ukrainians and Russians? What? Some fake borders? You know, you have to have, at the end of the road, the ability, like Jesus said, put yourself in someone else's shoes. Don't do to someone else what you don't want to have done to you. Or like Hillel says, Jesus said, Jesus said, do unto others as you would like to do for yourself, in a positive way. Hillel said before him, in the negative way, don't do to others what you don't want to have done to you. So if you don't want your wives to be raped, you don't want to have people go into your land and behead people, don't do it to the Jews. They were there since 1948, even before. This was not even in the Negev, in the southern part of Israel. It was not even part that was taken away from anyone who was living there. Why did you enter there? Why did you murder them? There's absolutely no excuses to burning humans alive. People who actually took you in and drove you to hospitals, paid their own money so you can get cancer treatment in Israel. And you actually went in knowing where their dogs are, where their security people are, where calling them by name and going in there and actually not even showing to work on Friday and Saturday just because you knew that there will be a massacre and you didn't tell them. That's not how you get into a better world. So, in my wish to all of us on this Passover, as we pass over from one point to another, that we all use our imagination and understand the potential of what can be if we only respect one another and treat one another with those famous words that Jesus and Hillel said. God bless you all. Have a happy Passover, and may our dream indeed come into reality, perhaps in 50 years, maybe even sooner. God bless. Thank you.